Hello and welcome to the New World Lead. Today is a historic day. It's the beginning of something amazing for me as I have embarked upon the journey of exploring this one question: how do we create the world we would love to live in? So my name is Sophie. I'm a personal strategy coach, legacy creator and facilitator. And this is my project, The New World Lead. Today, I bring you a conversation with the life coach, a breathwork facilitator, and author, Brian Piergrossi. Hi, Brian.
Hello, great to be here.
Welcome. I'm so glad you decided to participate in my new show, The New World Lead. I have invited you to have a conversation about a question that is on my mind and my heart every day. And that is, how do we create the world we would love to live in? And it's a big question. And I just want to start actually with the perspective of why I invited you to this conversation, because I found a text from you online that was called a spiritual conspiracy. About how the world right now seems in a dark place, maybe, but that there is hope and there is an inner silent revolution taking place in so many people all around the world. So it's like a lot of lights lighting up everywhere in every nation. And this writing gave me so much hope after a lot of years living in this surreal narrative after the COVID and experience, so to speak. So I wanted to first and foremost thank you for writing a piece that gives so many of us hope.
You're welcome.
And then I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to write this?
Great question. Thank you for asking. So a couple interesting things about the piece is, one, it was actually written in the early 2000s. So almost 20, not quite 20, let's say 15 years ago, it was first written.
Interesting.
And they kind of went through a couple of different stages. Like I shared it and, you know, some people liked it, but it wasn't like that big of a deal. And then I think a couple things happened. I think the consciousness of the collective started to awaken more. And also the internet was, you know, social media and internet was starting to connect more. And so I shared it again, and it was published in my book, The Big Glow. And then it just took off and really went viral and got responses from people all over the world, and got invited to speak different places, and people made videos using the words, using the piece, and, you know, would read it at retreats and yoga, you know, sessions and festivals, you know, all sorts of things. And then it kind of sort of will quiet down, and it will pick up when it's needed to pick up, right? So this period that you're talking about, like 2020, the last couple of years, it really kind of got catalyzed again and was really striking a chord in people and people's hearts, and really people were really feeling a call to the message and feeling inspired by the message. So it's being shared, and it really is a timeless message. You know, it's a timeless message, but also it's a timely message. See, it's a timeless message, but it's also very important right now, the message. So timeless and timely, and yeah, I'm happy that it's inspiring people and striking a chord in people's hearts, and I think what's really special and what's really important, which is the message itself, is just bringing people together, right? So the people that are resonant, that are on this vibrational resonance, are being called together, being catalyzed together, and we're being called to something. So the fact that it's bringing people together and connecting people is the first step, and it's you know, it's inspiring and beautiful to see that happening for people from just like the piece says, people from all different cultures, all different ways of life, Denmark, United States, you know, Africa, Australia, Asia, everywhere, all around the world.
That's amazing. I'm really surprised that you wrote it in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
2000. The book was actually published in 2008, and it was a couple years before that. So yeah, like at least 50, I would say around at least over 15 years ago.
Super interesting. You told me before, I mean, like the version I read has the headline "A Spiritual Conspiracy," and you actually said that the original title was "Love is the New Religion."
That's correct. Love is the new religion. It's mostly now it's known as, when people share it, it's mostly shared as the spiritual conspiracy, and spiritual conspiracy is in the piece. That phrase is in there. And I think that phrase really struck a chord with people, struck a chord with you apparently as well. Really, but yeah, it's titled "Love is the New Religion."
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing text. Would you mind me reading it out loud?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, A Spiritual Conspiracy by Brian Piergrossi. On the surface of the world right now, there is war and violence, and things seem dark. But calmly and quietly at the same time, something else is happening on the ground. An inner revolution is taking place, and certain individuals are being called to a higher light. It is a silent revolution, from the inside out, from the ground up. This is a global operation, a spiritual conspiracy. There are sleeper cells in every nation on the planet. You won't see us on the TV. You won't read about us in the newspaper. You won't hear about us on the radio, and we don't seek any glory. We don't wear any uniform, and we come in all shapes and sizes, colors and styles. Most of us work anonymously. We are quietly working behind the scenes in every country and culture of the world. Cities big and small, mountains and valleys, in farms and villages, tribes and remote islands. You could pass by one of us on the street and not even notice. We go undercover. We remain behind the scenes. It is of no concern to us who takes the final credit, but simply that the work gets done. Occasionally, we spot each other in the street, and we give a quiet nod and continue on our way. During the day, many of us pretend we have normal jobs, but behind the false storefront at night is where the real work takes place. Some call us the conscious army. We are slowly creating a new world. With the power of our minds and hearts, we follow with passion and joy, and our orders come from the central spiritual intelligence. We are dropping soft, secret love bombs when no one is looking. Poems, hugs, music, photography, movies, kind words, smiles, meditation and prayer, dance, social activism, websites, blogs, random acts of kindness, releasing grudges, letting go of judgments. We each express ourselves in our own unique ways, with our own unique gifts and talents. Be the change you want to see in the world. That is the motto that fills our hearts. We know it is the only way real transformation takes place. We know that quietly and humbly, we have the power of all the oceans combined. Our work is slow, meticulous, like the formation of mountains. It is not even visible at first glance, and yet, with it, entire tectonic plates shall be moved in the centuries to come. Love is the new religion of the 21st century. You don't have to be a highly educated person or have any exceptional knowledge to understand it. It comes from the intelligence of the heart, embedded in the timeless evolutionary pulse of all human beings. Be the change you want to see in the world. Nobody else can do it for you. We are now recruiting, and perhaps you will join us, or already have. All are welcome. The door is open.
Beautiful.
This is really beautiful. But was something changed from the original piece?
Yeah, there was one line.
Yeah.
Something about releasing grudges and judgments, which I was like, oh, that's nice. I agree with that.
Yeah,
So,
but you didn't add it. But yeah, but
somebody added that in along the way somewhere.
Okay, but that is funny with a text going viral like that. That something is
Well, yeah, and some people have changed it like pretty dramatically in ways that it's like it doesn't not so resonant.
Okay.
But yeah,
But this is okay.
I like that. Releasing grudges and judgments, I think was the line.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have to get the work done.
Yes.
What is the work, Brian?
Well, I think the work starts within. The work starts within. It's easy to project outward and look at everything wrong everyone else is doing and get upset and angry. And I think the reason we get angry and upset is because there's a sense of being disempowered. It's like when we're looking outside ourselves, we're wanting someone else to change, but we can't actually change them. So now we're angry, we're upset. It's why do they have to be like this? So, but we can change ourselves. We can work on ourselves. We can be more aware. Really, awareness is the key. Self-awareness. Being aware of ourselves in the present moment. And that's the reason I actually talk a lot about being in the now, being in the present moment, because where is change going to happen? Where is transformation going to happen? It's going to happen in you, and it's going to happen now. Those are the two things.
Only now, right?
Yeah. It's only going to happen in you, and it's only going to happen in now. And when you make transformation in yourself and you make it now, and the way you make it is by becoming more aware, becoming more conscious, becoming more awake, becoming more present, then you do make an impact on others. You make an impact on the world, and you make an impact on the future, and you make an impact. This one's a little more difficult to understand, but you make an impact on the past as well. So you make an impact on others, you make an impact on the future, you make an impact on the past.
So how do you make an impact on the past?
You make an impact on the past because the past is created by stories about what happened and how it happened and why it happens. And the future is created by stories of how it's going to happen, why it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. So the more awake we become in the present, then our stories about the future change, and our stories about the past change, and the stories of the past connect to the stories of the future, and the stories of the future connect to the stories of the past. So the more awake we become, we basically change the whole trajectory that we're on from future and the way it connects to the past.
So the way we create the world we love to live in is to tell stories about that.
Is to what?
Is to tell stories about what we love.
Well, we are telling stories. We're always telling stories. Everything is a story. If I say like, yeah, I went to the grocery store this morning and I got some honey, you know, that's just I'm telling you a story. So everything is a story, but what is the story? Like, what is it imbued with? You know, so like these qualities of love, peace, freedom, you know, gratitude, forgiveness, appreciation, compassion. You know, the more that we awaken to these qualities in the present moment, then the more those are the stories that we tell about the future and about the past. And that becomes more the world we live in. Because the stories that we're telling are that's our perception of reality. That's the perception of the world that we're living in.
Exactly. I think a lot of the light workers got a big surprise or a little shock in 2020, 2021, 2022, like these past couple of years with all the lockdowns, with the whole COVID experience, so to say, because it was difficult to tell a love and light story about what was going on. And suddenly a lot of us were confronted with maybe an idea of or maybe even losing trust in our leaders, in government, in officials, and how everything is being is working out for humanity, so to speak. So when and a lot of us raising questions were called conspiracy theorists, even though we were not intending to go all the way down the rabbit hole, but it was like it was not allowed to ask any questions. So how do we move on, creating a world we want to live in when we are confronted with anger and traumatized responses, and maybe being forced to doing things we don't want to.
Right. So there's a lot in there. So let's see if we can get to the key elements. Let's kind of work backwards. Like, I don't think we're actually ever forced to do anything that we don't want to do. So that's a liberating story in itself, right? So there's a story of like, oh, I have to do this, but I don't want to do it. And then there's another story of like, I don't have to do it. I might have consequences that I don't like. You know, I might have consequences that are painful or, you know, make me feel sad. But there's still the free will. There's still my choice. And there's something about, you know, I mentioned these different qualities, you know, peace and love and freedom and compassion and forgiveness. And another quality, and definitely one of the most essential of all, is truth. You know, to live in your truth and to speak from your truth and to act from your truth. And I found that to be dedicated to truth and to be dedicated to living from the truth actually is the gateway to the greatest and most genuine freedom and peace and love and all those other qualities as well. So when we live from our truth, yeah, other people might not like it sometimes, and they might you know, disagree with us. Maybe they'll be upset for whatever reason that has nothing to do with us personally. And that's part of life. That's part of life. We're on this journey of evolving in our consciousness, of evolutionary growth and expansion. And so we do grow through being challenged. You know, if everything is comfortable and, you know, there's kind of like there can be kind of a feeling of like, there's a word in English like flaccid, like it's just kind of flat, like nothing dynamic is happening. But if we're challenged, and we're challenged individually, but we're challenged collectively, you know? So if we're challenged, then there's the opportunity to rise, you know, that's the catalyst to our awakening. So the story is that what is happening right now, people are being challenged in a major way, and that is the opportunity to grow and awaken in a major way, in a massive way. So it can be a difficult time for many, but it's actually also a super exciting time, you know, because it's waking people up to a deeper realization of who they are and why they're here, and these deeper spiritual questions that we've been in a world, I would say particularly Europe, United States, the kind of Western civilization, we've been in a very materialistic way of being in the world, a very kind of atheistic way, you know, a very kind of nihilistic in certain segments. You know, there's no deeper meaning, it doesn't matter, you know, and this is catalyzing people to ask deeper questions, you know, and to connect to a deeper spiritual connection that is available to all of us. And we just have to ask and inquire. And the way that we're wired as human beings, when things are going good, a lot of times we go, you know, who cares? It's not important. But when things are difficult, then we start to try to connect spiritually. And so I think that this is what's happening right now. And something beautiful is arising out of what's happening. But just like in what you read, it's the same thing. It's like it's arising and it's beautiful, but you won't hear about it on the news. They don't talk about it.
Not
you know, so if you think that the news is all that's happening, you think, oh, everything is so terrible and horrible. That's one surface level that's the story they're giving you, and that is one reality. But there is this other thing that's happening that's a very beautiful and very powerful, and it's like you don't know it until you become a part of it, you know, and you start to be able to feel it on the heart level, and then you start to connect with other people that are feeling it on the heart level, and then you know it, you know that it's happening, you know that this is something that's real, it's happening, it's really beautiful, it's very miraculous, you know, and then it's giving our attention to that, you know, not being distracted.
Yeah.
That being this.
Did you stop watching the TV, listening to the radio a long time ago, or is it a part?
That's a good question. You know, like I actually, yes, I mostly don't tune into the news, but then there are periods, because most of the stuff that is in the news is not significant. It doesn't affect our personal lives at all. And people are getting all upset about, you know, things that have no bearing on their personal life. But there are some things that do have an effect on your personal life, and then you want to get to the truth of them. You want to understand what's happening. And so there's moments, there's periods where I do want to understand what's happening. And you know, we have to kind of, we're in a role, we have to kind of become our own journalists, because we're being told narratives in the mainstream media that just obscure deeper truths of what's happening. So we have to become our own journalists and inquire into what's happening and ask questions, and, you know, kind of like a detective, you know, kind of piece together what's happening in the world, and talk to each other, and talk to, like, what is your experience, what's happening, what's my experience, other people, and really communicate in an honest, genuine way, an authentic way. And yeah, so it's not to say that I'm not interested in what's happening in the world. I think I am interested in what's happening in the world, and that's why I don't listen to the news very much.
That makes sense. It is as if there are forces misleading humanity
Yeah.
going on right now that we might better ignore, so they don't get more more power or attention. But
Yes, and the other thing too is, if something is coming across that's very fear-based, that's anxiety-based, because when people are coming from a place of fear and anxiety, of course, hatred, or kind of like divisive energy, then they're in an energy that they just kind of, if you can feel from when you're really anxious or you're really afraid, you can't think clearly. Like that clarity doesn't come through. And so much of the news is coming from that kind of state. And so it's like, well, this is not clear. It's not coming from a clear place. So you want to try to tune into sources that are grounded, present. There's a sense of stillness. There's a sense of inner silence and connection, inside, and mostly listen that within yourself, right? Primarily within yourself, because if it's not in yourself, then you won't be able to find it. You're just going to mirror back what's inside you, but mostly find it inside yourself. And just to make one other point that's important to make, this doesn't mean that sometimes we won't see something that makes us sad or makes us upset, or is painful. That's the emotional guidance system, right? We encounter those feelings to direct us the right way to go. It just means don't get stuck there. Don't be stuck and identified and attached to that, where you're living from that place. It's like that's information in the moment, and then you make the adjustment, and then you let go. You forgive if you need to forgive, and you live in a place where you're open and available to the guidance that's available to us in the moment.
that sounds like a really good answer to the question, how do we create the world we want to live in? To be really conscious of our emotional state, of our inner guidance system, and how do you, I mean, like, you work as a life coach, how do you help people be the change they want to see in the world?
The first thing is you have to be honest. You have to be, so the space that I create is like, we're going to be as honest as we can possibly be. And it's a safe space, because, most spaces in the world aren't safe to be honest. That's just the reality, right? So like, in other words, like, this is a safe space. You can be honest. There's no consequences, in fact, it's a positive thing. There's no negative consequences. It's a positive thing to be honest. And it's a confidential space. So what you share here doesn't get shared outside of this space. And so that honesty brings a level of self-awareness, where, and it's been amazing for me, because working with so many people from so many different cultures and places and backgrounds, who are really being honest and sharing what's really happening, it really gives me a sense of like what's really happening in the collective, which again is different than what you'll hear in the news or the media. The news and the media definitely influence people, so they're being influenced by that, and they're it's affecting them. But there's a lot of other things happening as well. So that's the first part, is really being honest having the space to be honest. And then kind of what we're talking about now, like clarity of intention. Like, what is your intention? You know, what is your intention for yourself? What is your intention for the world? The more clear your intention is, the more clear your intention is realized. And as you said before we started recording, you know, if you can focus on what you want to create and not on what you don't want to create, what you're for, not on what you're against.
That's essential. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that can be challenging. It's you know, the mind is sort of, we're kind of programmed and conditioned to look for problems, to look for danger. You know, it kind of comes back to when we used to live in the jungle, and it's like, you know, look for the woolly mammoth or whatever, you know, look for the saber-toothed tiger. So we look for the bad thing. But now we can start to focus and hone on looking for what we want to create, and we'll create it more and more, co-create it more and more together, starting with ourselves. So once we have the clarity of intention, then we start to create what's the vision or the plan or the strategy. You know, what are the steps to get that? And that can be fine-tuned, that's flexible. In fact, it's very important to be flexible with your strategy and your planning, because usually plan A doesn't work. So you have to kind of always be adjusting, be fluid, be taking in the information and adjusting. And so helping people to do that. And let's see, accountability in the coaching is really a really powerful component. So just knowing that you're showing up consistently, you know, at the same time, you know, each week or whatever the setup is, and that you're sharing, like, what is your highest calling? What do you call it to create? Where are you going in your life? And that somebody, you know, in this case, me, is going to ask you, you know, are you doing the things that you said that you're going to do, that you want to do? And that keeps you focused, because there's so many ways to get distracted, so many ways to get lost in things that you're giving your attention to that aren't of the highest and best interest for you or for the people in your life to give your attention to. So that really helps keep people focused and accountable to living the highest and best version of themselves, and staying true to that. And then the last thing is holistic integral approach. So what that means is the recognition that all the parts of ourselves are interconnected and interrelated. So you have people that are like, you know, I'm a business coach and I'm a relationship coach, etc. But even if you focus on one of those areas, the other areas affect that area. So if you're not addressing the other areas, then you're not going to be able to really hone in on that area. So, you know, business and work, relationship, physical health, emotional health, mental, psychological health, community, family, where you live, financial, where you're at financially, and then the root, the foundation being the spiritual. Like, those are the 10 elements that I work with, and then realizing that all those elements are interconnected, interrelated. And when we make any one part stronger, we make all the parts stronger. And if one part is really struggling, then everything is kind of lagging down. And so really working with the whole self, you know, a holistic approach to working with the whole you. And some of the tools that we work with are just a lot of it's just being able to ask the right questions. I mean, the foundation, most importantly of all, is really being present with someone. You know, so I make space to actually get into a quiet meditative space before each session, really be present with somebody. So it's deeper, it's a different thing. And some people don't understand this at first, but it's very different than just like, oh, we're having a casual chat, you know. There's a different, we're entering like a sacred space together. And you know, I know you're a coach as well, so you probably have an understanding of this. So get into a meditative space, and then really being present, making myself present to be with somebody for that entire space, and asking the right questions. We could also use different tools like meditation, guided meditation, mindfulness practices, breath work, different things to access deeper parts of oneself, and really tapping into the essence of who we are and why we're here.
That's
and
beautiful.
why the individual specifically.
Sure. Yeah. So the spiritual is the base, you say.
Yes,
Have you
the root of
always
the tree.
the root of the tree? Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, have you always been spiritually aware or
No,
inclined?
no,
Huh?
definitely not.
Oh,
The short story, actually, not the long story, the short story is I had chronic fatigue syndrome when I was 20 years old. It was very unexpected, and it came on, and it didn't leave. It went on for weeks, then months, and then years.
okay.
So but it did improve over time gradually, but I was very debilitated at first. I was bedridden for like 6 months, and had symptoms for years. So like actually most of my 20s, I was had chronic fatigue syndrome. So like I was saying earlier, that adversity, that challenge is the catalyst to our awakening. So the reason I know that is that was my personal experience as well as I've seen many other people since then. But that was really, a difficult time for me, very confusing, very disorienting. And I didn't understand why it happened to me, you know? So I had to try to understand why it was happening to me. So that started my spiritual journey. And that spiritual journey of being a spiritual seeker went on for quite a few years of me just trying to understand, reading whatever books I could read, talking to whatever, or listening to whatever wise spiritual people were I could, access, and, go to different workshops, or, um, speeches or meditations, and all of and exploring different traditions, different spirituality from different cultural backgrounds, and and that's what really catalyzed and started it, and that's the so that so they to go back let's go back to the story part. So you could say, oh, it's such a terrible thing that you had chronic fatigue syndrome, and it was very hard, so that's true, but also that was my greatest blessing and something that I'm very grateful for, because that's what started my spiritual journey and had me realize all the things that I came to realize.
So what is your mission in this life?
The first thing that comes to me is love.
Yeah.
I think that's so we have a specific mission that's specific to us, but we also have a universal mission.
Yeah.
And I think the universal mission is love for all of us. Now, what is love, and how do we embody it? I think that question it deepens over time, so there's kind of superficial ideas of love, and then there's kind of deeper ideas of like what love is. Not ideas, but realizations. It's deeper than the mind, so deeper realizations of what that is. And so to continue to be a deeper and deeper embodiment and expression of that in the world.
So do you believe that we can create the love or the world that we would love to live in? Do you believe we have inside of us all the creational power of the prime creator, of God, of the creational power? Do you think we as human beings really can make a difference in the world?
Yes. And God is within us, and God moves through us, has the potential to move through us in each moment. And so, yes. And one important thing is to let go of how the way we think it needs to look, or it's supposed to look. Because the ego wants to go, oh no, I want it my way. I want it to be the way I want it to be. But we have to let go and just like be the channel, be a clear channel as best we can for for God to move through us in each moment, and the rest is not up to us.
So that is actually the way you live, that you recognize your ego, set it aside, become a clear channel, and let God move through you. And then the end result must be in somebody else's responsibility. Yeah.
It's in God's responsibility. Like if you're letting God move through you, then it's God's responsibility.
Yeah. But what
you
if
know?
God, but if God is if you are God?
Yeah.
And we all are. Do you think
Yeah.
do you think every human being on this planet today have a soul, have a higher self,
Yes.
has God moving through them?
Yes. So we all are children of God, so to speak, and we mostly aren't aware of it. That's really that simple. It's like we don't realize who we really are. We're not aware of who we really are, and there's all kinds of things we could talk about that are obscuring that. But so that's why the most important thing is to realize who you really are, because that changes everything else. It's kind of like the beginning and the end, because if you realize who you really are, then you show up in the world completely differently, and you're impacting people in a completely different way.
What was the turning point for you after you had your in your 20s, you were bedridden and you were with chronic fatigue, then you started your spiritual search, but what was the turning point? Like when did you click in and was like, whoa, this is who I am, now I get it?
Mm-hmm.
And then started consciously creating your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not one moment. There are key, like, pivotal moments, plural. A big influence on me, or inspiration on me, was teachings from the East, particularly India, Taoism, which comes from China, or ancient China, Zen, which is like Japan. But there's different. I'll name them. I'll name a few people just in case people might. They're kind of hard to like type out, but especially this first one. Nisardagatta is one.
What?
Uh,
Could you repeat that?
I think I'll just share some names, and then maybe if you want, we can put it in the comment section later.
You can do that.
So Nisardagatta, Ramana Maharshi, Krishnamurti, those are three that I think I spent a lot of time with, and had big openings to who I really am through their writings, and their mostly writings, actually meditating on the writings.
Yeah.
So so that was very powerful. Yoga. Yeah, so many different people. Rumi, and a lot of people know Rumi. Rumi was an influence. I mean, there's so many different people. That's the beauty, is there's all these different guides that are here for us.
Yeah.
If we just open up to them and we're available to them.
Yeah.
And then most recently, I've really been connecting with what could be called Christian mysticism. So it's like there's this truth that transcends these different, like, all these religions are pointing at the same truth in a different way. And then there's something actually very powerful, but very misunderstood, extremely powerful, incredibly powerful, but very misunderstood, about Jesus and his teachings. So I've been had this calling to sort of clarify what the true essence of the Christ transmission is, and what the true essence of the teachings of Jesus are. That is different than what the religions are.
Okay.
Are most religions anyway, telling people, yeah.
In how way different?
Again, back to what we were talking about. It's about love, forgiveness, compassion, realizing who you really are, freedom. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful transmission, and it's not about fear at all. You know, it's not about divisiveness. It's about oneness. Yeah, it's something that when you start to it's like it's like a direct relationship that you tap into, and when you tap into it directly, you start to be, it's like the Christ transmission is a bridge to God, right? So it's a bridge between the human being and God. God is incomprehensible. God is something that we cannot understand with our minds. So I don't, when I picture God, there is no picture, you know. So for me,
it's just so funny. Sorry, I'm laughing, but it's just like we have this the childhood image of God as this old man in the sky with
these are the things that need to be clarified.
Exactly.
Right. So I don't feel God as a man or a woman or anything. No. God is something that transcends the mind. God is I call it the universal creative intelligence, you know, that which creates all things. Something's creating this world. It's not you, it's not me. So that's what I call God. So God is creating all things, and God is within all things.
Yeah.
Right. And Jesus is someone who was one with that realization, you know, and so and was teaching how to become one with that realization. So when we tune into, it's really like, the best way I can explain it, it's like a transmission. It's like you can feel it, you know. So when we tune into that transmission, then we're starting to tune in to becoming one with God and one with how to live from that place in the world. And that's a beautiful thing.
It is. And it is exactly a description of the inner revolution.
Yes.
That you are
yes.
talking about.
Yes.
So how do you have like a daily structure for you to get into this level of consciousness, or this being of, I guess it's like when you, for me at least, it's like that. If I get into a good rhythm, so to speak, it's easier to get on the high flying disc of consciousness. But I mean, I guess we all need some kind of structure or some kind of, so how do you
definitely, I mean ideally, honestly, your whole day is dedicated to this, you know. That doesn't mean that you're just meditating all day, but even in your work, you know, your work is a form of prayer and meditation. Your time with your children is a form of the, you know, prayer and meditation. Your time with, you know, if you have a spouse, you know, it's you know, friend, everything is like is this space. But yes, I do think that, and for me, you know, having space for silent meditation or silent prayer every day, having space to read spiritual texts that move you, that are supporting you and helping you, tuning into teachers or guides, you know, that are supporting you, that have wisdom for you. And that's so accessible these days. That's the amazing thing, is like there's so much garbage that, you know, is accessible to us, but there's so much brilliant, you know, light and luminous wisdom that's accessible to us too.
Yeah.
And so it's like we can just, you know, connect to all, you know, just so much stuff that's out there. Also, I think embodiment is an important So physical exercise, walking, getting outside, spending time in nature is amazing. You know, nature is where you can most clearly see God's creation, right? And the elegance of it, and the beauty of it, and just the perfect geometry of it. And, you know, it's so that's historically, throughout history, that has been a place where people connect spiritually, is the natural world. And unfortunately, like, a lot of people are becoming, because we're becoming more urbanized, people are becoming more and more cut off from the natural world. But you just work with what you have, you know? Maybe all you have is the sky and the clouds. So then spend time looking at the clouds and the sky, you know? Maybe you just have a tree. So spend time with that tree and sharing time with the tree. And, you know, whatever we focus on expands.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really, really important. To realize when we are in a state, for instance, as we talked about before, in fear or in anger or whatever, if we stay there, it expands. So we need to have like tools or to get out of these states, not like spiritual bypassing, but like what there is. I mean, like looking at what is, accepting, and then being able to sort of transform, telling new stories, I guess, also about what is going on, both externally and internally. Yeah. So do you start every morning meditating, for instance?
I think how you start the morning is important. How I start it varies. I would say it's one of a few different ways. It's a lot of times I like to go for a walk to start. So then it's like you're kind of combining a few different things. It's like the exercise, it's meditative, and you're outside. So, and you're connected to nature, and you're getting fresh air. So I would say most days it's that way. But sometimes it'll be sitting meditation. Sometimes it'll be, you know, reading spiritual text, or, you know, spiritual poetry, something like that. Sometimes it will be something a little bit more physical, like more like more physical exercise or yoga or something like that.
Okay.
So, and then when I say prayer, also meditation. Meditation and prayer is in there too. So the way I define meditation is more quiet receptivity, listening, and prayer is more of a conversation, like you're asking a question, or you're listening for the answer.
Yeah. So how would you like the rest of us, the whole world, to remember you when you're not here anymore? What is your legacy?
I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna be a little shocking, but I don't think that there's a need to be remembered.
Great.
I think
you just passed. You just passed the the set.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so funny because today is the 7th of March, 2023, and Saturn just moved into Pisces and ended a whole era, and we are starting a new era now. And actually, just as you write in your text, it doesn't really matter who gets noticed for doing the work. We just have to do the work.
Yeah. So I don't think that there's a need to be remembered. I think probably I feel very clear, actually, that like the people that have, most of the people, not all of them, but majority of the people that have done the most for this world, no one knows who they are. No one ever heard of them. And so, there's no need to be remembered. And you said something that I resonated with, was the key is that vibration, is that consciousness, is that is that being transmitted? Is that being shared? Is that being carried forth to future generations? So that's what's important.
Yeah. Be the change
Mm-hmm.
you want to see in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you up to now, Brian? Do you have anything interesting, a new project or something you are working on that's that needs?
So yeah, several things. So we have the personal coaching is really finding it really valuable and really powerful. So if people are interested in that, they can reach out to me about that. I'll just share with you when we're done. I'll share with you my email, and then a different email than the one you have, and then people can just actually reach out directly with me. But personal coaching has been really valuable. We're doing the breath work once a month here in Asheville, North Carolina, and the room has been filled, and really powerful things happening there. We do share other places as well, but that's been a consistent thing now, once a month.
Do you
also mastermind?
Do you also do that online, the breathwork facilitating?
We can, yeah.
Yeah.
We can do it online. Yeah. So we do personal breath. We do personal sessions too.
Sorry. I guess just a lot of people listening, they might not be in in your nearby area.
Yeah, I think that there are things, I mean, just to be totally honest, there are things that they're best in person, and they're not going to be as good if they're online. So like a group breath work is more powerful in person than a group breath work online. So I'm not that excited about doing a group breath work online, but we have done personal, we do personal breath work sessions. And there is a way that can be done. I won't go to the whole thing now, but that it can be very powerful. So I would recommend that for people. And then the men's mastermind group that I'm doing, really enjoying that. That's been happening for several years now. And we have a couple retreats coming up.
Okay.
One, this isn't online yet, so you're one of the first to know about this.
Okay.
One in California and one in this area in the mountains in North Carolina. They're both going to be 3-day retreats. So that's an opportunity to really connect more deeply with the community and what's happening and what we're doing.
So I'm going to put links to all of your social media links. And also the contact information underneath this video, so people can get in touch with you.
Yeah. I really enjoy our Telegram group as well. We have a Telegram community and connect there daily.
That's actually a new thing, right?
I'd say it's a year or two, the last year or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how come you created the Telegram group?
I really like Telegram a lot because the biggest thing of all is that, there's no algorithm. So Facebook has an algorithm, Instagram has an algorithm, YouTube has an algorithm, Google has an algorithm. So then the way the thing is programmed, the ones who are running this business, they control what they want you to see and what they don't want you to see.
Yeah.
And so they bump things down or bump things up based on a whole variety of different factors that are not in your best interest, they're in their best interest. And Telegram has no algorithm. It's just whatever is the last thing posted, that's what you see. No one else is involved. There's no third party involved. And no one ever bothers us. We can just share whatever we want, talk about whatever we want, ask whatever kind of questions we want. It's just it's kind of the way like social media was originally,
Before all the censoring and everything. Yeah.
So it's been great, and more people are gravitating towards it, because at first it was like, and there's still this thing of like, well, Facebook, because no one that I knew that I know, like literally no one. Well, okay, not no one. There's a few people, but most people that I know don't like Facebook. But they're like, oh, but I have to be on it because everyone else is there and there's nothing else taking its place, you know. But I think that that's starting to change, and more people are creating groups on Telegram and different things on Telegram.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really happy there. I still am on Facebook as well, but I'm not. I don't use that very much. It's minimal.
Okay. So this will be uploaded on YouTube, and let's see what the algorithm does with it. That's interesting. But thank you very much for sharing your light and your experience, your practices, and all your insights with me and whoever feels called to listen to this first episode of the New World Lead.
I feel very honored and grateful to have been asked to be the guest for your first episode. I'm excited about what you're doing. I think you did a great job as a interviewer, and I see great success for this podcast ahead, and look forward to being on it again.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you.